Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started today. My name is Steve Mueller. I have the honor of serving as the Sheriff of Cherokee County in the Upstate and the current President of the South Carolina Sheriff's Association. On behalf of the South Carolina Sheriffs, Chiefs of Police, state law enforcement agencies, our canine handlers, our mounted patrol officers, and the entire law enforcement community, I want to welcome you to the ceremonial signing of H 3034. This is Fargo's, Hyco's, Rico's, Coba, Wick's, Mikka's, and Bumi's law. We are honored to be joined today by our Governor, Henry McMaster, along with members of the South Carolina General Assembly and the families and friends of those remarkable animals whose names will be forever attached to this legislation. We gather here today at this memorial to recognize something that every law enforcement officer here already knows. Service knows no species. The canines and horses that serve alongside our deputies, officers, and agents, they are not equipment. They are not tools. They are trusted partners. They train with us. They work with us. They protect us. They track dangerous suspects through the woods in the middle of the night. They patrol large gatherings around the state, parades, festivals, sporting events. They locate missing children and vulnerable adults. They detect narcotics and explosives. They protect their handlers and fellow officers from harm, and they help build local trust. And when called upon, they willingly place themselves between danger and the people they serve with unwavering loyalty and courage, asking for nothing in return. This new law sends a powerful message that South Carolina recognizes the extraordinary contributions of law enforcement animals, and that those who intentionally injure or kill them will face very meaningful consequences. It also recognizes the tremendous investment agencies make in training and deploying these animals and helps ensure accountability when that investment is deliberately harmed or destroyed. Most importantly, this law serves as a lasting tribute to the animals whose name it bears, and to every law enforcement animal that has faithfully served the people of South Carolina. The names on this legislation may belong to canines, but behind every one of those names is a handler and their family who love that dog, trained with that dog, worked with that dog, and they also mourn that dog's loss. Fargo, Hyco, Rico, Coba, Wick, Mikka, and Bumi. When I say your name, if you're here, please stand up so we can recognize you. Sergeant Warren Cavanaugh of the Richland County Sheriff's Department, K-9 Fargo, was shot and killed while apprehending an armed robbery suspect into watch December 16, 2011. Retired Officer Brandon Surratt, who could not be here today with us from the Anderson County Sheriff's Office, he had K-9 Hyco, who was shot and killed during the pursuit of a carjacking suspect into watch October 21st of 2015. Special Agent Richard Hunton III of the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, K-9 Rico, was killed while searching for and apprehending a suspect wanted for shooting a deputy in Charleston County. End of watch September 28th of 23. Special Agent Richard Cole Powell of the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division with K-9 Coba was shot and killed while assisting in the service of a felony warrant in Newberry County. End of watch, June the 11th, 2024. K-9 Specialist Zaid Abdullah of the Richland County Sheriff's Department, along with K-9 Wick. K-9 Wick was struck and killed by a vehicle while pursuing a suspect who had fled from a stolen vehicle on I-77. End of watch, June the 20th, 2024. K-9 Specialist Alan Ware of the Richland County Sheriff's Department, K-9 Bumi, was shot and killed while pursuing a juvenile suspect in Columbia. End of watch, December 23rd, 2024. Deputy Brandon Timmons of the Lee County Sheriff's Office with K-9 Mikka was killed during a standoff and shootout with a suspect wanted for shooting a police officer when the patrol car caught fire. End of the watch, September 20th, 2024. Also, I want to recognize all the other handlers that are here. They're spread throughout the area here in the courtyard. along with the mounted patrol units over here to my left, your right, and the agencies represented here today. If you all could, please, our handlers are already standing. If there's any seated, please stand so we can recognize you and give you a round of applause. I see handlers here this morning. I'm not possibly going to be able to name all of you off, but I see Aiken County here. I see Chester. I see Union. I see Darlington, Georgetown, Cherokee, Greenville, York, Greenwood, Spartanburg, and Newberry, Lawrence, and Richland County K-9 units. And also I've seen Somerville PD, along with Rock Hill PD, Charleston PD, Clemson University K-9 units, Columbia PD, and we also have mounted patrol units here from York County, Richland County, the City of Columbia, and the City of Charleston are here. We also have with us today DNR, DJJ, SLED, Department of Corrections, and Department of Public Safety. How wonderful that you all here for this very meaningful ceremony and a change in law that is long overdue. Again, we're going to give you a round of applause. All right, y'all may be seated. I also want to thank our partners at Crime Stoppers, Lamar Advertising, and the Humane World for Animals for their statewide advocacy, and the members of the General Assembly who supported this legislation and helped carry it across the finish line. If our members of our General Assembly that are here, if you would, please stand so we can recognize you as well. Thank you again. For over 14 years, South Carolina law enforcement community has worked to strengthen the protections afforded to our canines and our mounted patrol animals. We remain committed because we believe that these courageous animals deserve recognition under the law that reflected their value and their sacrifice. It is now my privilege to introduce the man who championed this legislation and never gave up on seeing it become law. Representative Neil Collins, if you'll please come forward.
Thank you, Sheriff. And I don't have any prepared remarks today because I wanted to just quickly just speak from my heart. First, my name is Neil Collins, and I do represent Pickens County. I'm named Neil because my Uncle Neil was killed in the line of duty as a police officer in Georgia. So, number one, I thank you for all the law enforcement here for what you do, and also to the families that allow you to do and take that same risk of what you do for our communities. This has been quite the journey. My first introduction of this bill was just Fargo, Hyco, and unfortunately, over the past 10 years, we've had to add names to the bill. I don't think anything would have happened this year but for all of the support and grassroots support that we did have this year, and specifically with Government McMaster, SLED, and the Sheriff's Association. So Government McMaster, Sally Foster, Cynthia Condors, thank y'all for what y'all have done for this. I do want to specifically point out a couple of people. Sitting to my left here is now my brother, Warren Cavanaugh. He and his wife, Anna, and Anna, thank you for everything that you've done over the past, over a decade now. It takes a lot to pass a bill through the General Assembly. And the number one thing that you need is champions. And Warren and Anna have been those champions for over a decade now. This would not have happened but for the two of y'all. Y'all have done Fargo, Hyco, and the other 5 just so much justice. So thank y'all for what y'all have done. Do want to thank my members of the South Carolina General Assembly here. First and foremost, Representative Chris Wooten. He is our law enforcement guy in the House. He's the one that we go to. He's the expert of law enforcement. I hope he is reelected on Tuesday. But thank you, Chris, for everything that you've done. Doug Gilliam, Mike Neese, thank you all for being here. I don't see the others, but I can tell you on the day that we passed this on the House floor, Republicans and Democrats came together and we worked through the issue on the House floor to where it didn't have to be done on the Senate floor. And I do want to thank all of the members, Republicans and Democrats, for us being able to pass it almost unanimously. So with that, I just want to say again, thank you. This is much needed. From a political and community standpoint, it is my opinion that these dogs, these horses, these animals are an extension of our family, are an extension of our law enforcement. So this is a much needed increase to the penalties. And again, thank you all.
This morning, we're here on very sacred ground. Behind me, you see the names of the men and women in uniform who's lost their life, but over here you see the K-9 Memorial. So I think this is a very appropriate place for us to be this morning to sign this bill. Standing with me is Sergeant Warren Cavanaugh. Unfortunately, Warren has the distinction of losing the first K-9 in our state, which is Fargo, which he and his wife Anna initiated this effort to get more protection for our police dogs, but also for our man and patrol. I cannot tell you the sleepless nights that they've had, the energy they put into it, the tears that they put into it, but they never gave up. And with the help of the governor and our General Assembly, it happened. And as Neil said, this wasn't a Republican thing, this wasn't a Democrat thing, this was just something that needed to be done, and it happened. This allows these, and I'm not going to say they're an extension of our law enforcement family, they are part of our law enforcement family. These horses and these police dogs are no different than the humans that put a uniform on. They go out there and go to work knowing they may not come home, but they're there with their partner. And Warren and his partner, Fargo, gave the ultimate sacrifice that night when Fargo protected Warren and the other deputies out there. So it is fantastic to see everybody out here. I think this just demonstrates the support and love that this community and the law enforcement community has for these dogs and also for these horses. So, you know, on behalf of Warren and all of those who handle a dog, who's handled a dog and will handle a dog, and the horses also, this sends a message that y'all are important and y'all will never be forgotten for the sacrifices you made and the work that you continue to do. So God bless everybody for being here.
I too want to thank everybody for being here today. It's great to see so many people come out to support law enforcement, and I thank you for that. Governor, I thank you for your support for law enforcement. It goes without saying, you are always there for us. You have been a steadfast supporter as governor and attorney general and U.S. attorney, and again, thank you for what you do for us and your support for us every day. Representative Collins, your years of support, I know, again, as we talked a little bit earlier, you thought this would never happen, and it shouldn't have took the amount of time that you worked on it to get us there. But thank you for your steadfast support, your persistence in getting this bill passed. And I want to thank Sergeant Warren Cavanaugh as well with Richland County Sheriff's Office. Warren, we were talking a minute ago, I think he's been a handler since about 2004 or 6 or something. He's been around doing this a long time. And again, Warren, I want to thank you for your friendship and also thank you for what you have done, your persistence. He was there at every committee meeting, testified, and I can tell you the way he testified and what he had to say changed some people's minds. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And we want to thank you for that as well. You know, on 9/11/2024, I stood in this very spot and I spoke in remembrance of K-9 Rico and Coba, who were shot and killed in the line of duty. Today, we honor the service of all K-9s who are killed serving our state. Fargo, Hyco, Rico, Coba, Wick, Mikka, Bumi, all gave their lives protecting their handlers, and in turn protecting their families. They all died so their partners could live. Rico and Coba, without a doubt, sacrificed their lives to save their partners and their teammates. The selfless service preserved 2 SLED families, steeped in public service to this state and to SLED. SLED K-9 Rico was a partner of SLED Special Agent Richard Hunton. His wife, Lieutenant Jennifer Hunton, is in charge of crime scene at SLED, and his father, Richard Hunton, is a major at SLED. SLED K-9 Coba was a partner of SLED Special Agent Cole Powell. His father's retired SLED, Freddie Powell, who ran our K-9s, our bloodhounds, for years. His sister, Sarah, is a SLED agent in the upstate. Today, with the signing of H-3034, we honor the service of all the K-9s who made the ultimate sacrifice. We honor that special bond between their handlers that they share with their K-9 partners. And we honor them by holding these offenders accountable who want to harm our police animals. Again, thank you, Governor McMaster and Representative Collins, and want to thank the entire General Assembly for supporting this bill and getting it to the finish line. Thank you very much.
I'll be brief. It really is heartening to see all of these people here and these animals for this event where we recognize what our dogs do for our lives. And Chief Keel mentioned that these dogs are not a part of the adjunct to law enforcement, a part of the family. Well, I think in South Carolina, one of our strengths as a state and as a people is we recognize the importance of these animals, of all these animals. My daddy passed away at 100 years old, and I think he told me just about every year, he always say, a man who doesn't love a dog is not a man at all. And I agree with that. I think that we, by our nature here in this state particularly, we recognize how important they are. One of the biggest funerals I ever went to was on September 27th, 2023. Y'all will remember it was following that date. That was the date that Rico passed away. That was one of the biggest funerals I ever saw. I think there were a couple of hundred dogs there, but there were people all over the place, and there were tears in just about everybody's eyes, because we realized, particularly with these dogs that gave their lives, and these dogs that do it, they're trained to do that, but also it is that relationship between that handler, those people, that man or that woman, and that animal. And if we could bring them back and ask them, would you do it again? The answer would be yes. I'd do it again for that man I was with. I'd run into that building, I'd run into that car, I'd run into those woods, because that's what he wants me or she wants me to do. There probably is not another animal on earth. There are not many people on earth that would do things like that. So this is a wonderful day. It's a recognition of what we stand for. It's a recognition of what we believe, and a recognition of how important these wonderful animals are. And I'll finish up. I go to First Presbyterian Church, and I remember a few years ago, somehow or another, the question got asked to the preacher, and that question was, do dogs go to heaven? Now this preacher, this was a real preacher. He'd studied and he'd been all around. I mean, he was a show enough preacher. And his answer was, of course dogs go to heaven. He said, what would heaven be like without your dogs? And that was recently memorialized by our poet laureate, Patrick Davis, who has a song called, I'm Going to Carolina When I Die. He says he's going to stop off at heaven and see his parents, his friends, and his dogs. Then he's going to Carolina when he dies. So we in Carolina, and we're alive, and our dogs are alive, and we will always cherish and remember those as family members who went before us. Thank you.
All I can just say is wow. Governor McMaster, thank you. As Chief Gill alluded to, thank you for your steadfast support of law enforcement through your many years of public service as our Attorney General and as our Lieutenant Governor and as our Governor. You've always been there to support the things that were meaningful to law enforcement. Also want to take a moment, if all of the sheriffs are in attendance and chiefs of police and heads of any state agencies, if you would please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you for being here. Today is much more than a piece of legislation. It is about recognizing the sacrifice, honoring service, and acknowledging the unique role that law enforcement animals play in protecting the people of our state. To the handlers and the families represented here today, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Behind every name on this bill is a story of service. You heard just a little small snippet of that. But it's also a story of dedication, sacrifice, and we honor those stories today, and we honor the remarkable animals who made them possible. Thank you to all of our K-9 units, our Mounted Patrol units statewide, and thank you all for being here as we celebrate a truly historic day for South Carolina law enforcement and our K-9s and Mounted Patrol units. May God continue to bless each and every one of our men and women who are serving in the trenches in law enforcement, along with their K-9 partners and their Mounted Patrol units, the horses throughout the state. May God continue to bless you all and keep you safe. Thank you for being here today. We're all dismissed.